Well, it's a pleasure to be here. It really is great to be here. Thank you for inviting me back to India once again. Thank you to the organisers, to Rishi and Shekhar as you pulled this conference together. It's a great illustration of the dynamism of the IoT ecosystem here. And truly, the IoT is a great opportunity for India, but it's also a threat. And these are some of the things that I want to run through during my presentation here. Sorry. Okay. These are some things I want to run through my presentation here. The fact that it's an opportunity and also a threat for India. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through, firstly, what is the IoT? How will it come about? And what's the opportunity for India? So firstly, M2M and IoT, what's the point? Well, I'm just going to run through some examples here, some illustrative cases that we've just to illustrate the point very well. So first one, this is Sealed Air. This is a company that used to make devices that made sealed air packets that you might find packaging your Amazon deliveries, etc. And they used to make the machines, and they used to supply the supplies, which were basically plastic, and the air was inserted on site, and that was it. And what they did is they transformed that business model. This became effectively a service. They connected these devices. They charged per packet of sealed air rather than for the actual device. It completely transformed the business model. They know far more about their clients, about the usage profiles. They've got an ongoing relationship. They can monitor the device, and they know when to upsell new devices. It improves their relationship with the customer. It's a transformational solution. Gerber Cutter, these guys, this is a huge machine which makes panels for furniture, for self-assembly furniture, so it'll cut huge panels of wood. And Gerber Cutter, or Gerber, found that these devices were being used in ways that they shouldn't. They were not being serviced properly, they were being used in too hot, too humid environments, which resulted in warranty claims which they had to fund. And simply connecting these devices, monitoring how they were used, how they were serviced, enabled them to avoid, firstly, false warranty claims, but secondly, also to provide a better quality of service. These machines didn't break down so well, and it underlined the quality of the solution. Another solution, irrigation in Spain. This is quite relevant in an Indian context as well. But this is a joint venture or a joint solution with Telefonica and ABB in Andalusian region in Spain, which is a very arid area. And this resulted in a 25% reduction in water consumption for the farms and for fruit farms, and, a huge reduction in costs as well. Very significant impact on the way those businesses ran. Gettinger Online, so Gettinger made clinical dishwashers. And these dishwashers, at the end of the day, would wash up the equipment that was used for operations in hospitals. And there used to have to be somebody, a trained member of staff, sitting there watching and monitoring these machines in case the cycle didn't finish, because they needed to make sure that these utensils and tools were ready for the operations the next day. They had to watch to make sure the cycle finished. Simply collecting this machine enables the people to monitor it from home, from remotely. You don't have to have a clinically trained member of staff watching a dishwasher now. They can go remotely, and on the 1 in 100 times the cycle doesn't complete, they come in and they fix it and they restart it. And obviously it's a far more efficient way of working. Big Belly Solar. These are waste bins which send out signals when they're full or when they need emptying, which enables the waste collection routes within cities to be significantly optimized. Bins are only emptied when they're full, as opposed to on a schedule. Helsinki is an example of a highly integrated transport system. So what you've got here is a whole range of really point solutions which are really transformational in their niches. They're very fragmented. The device counts associated with these solutions, it's very small. You'll see forecasts of multiple billion devices, but what I want to emphasize here is that the real transformation happens at a level of very few devices, and it's a tactical and strategic use of connectivity which really influences the way that this industry develops. Thank you. Does this? Hello? 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 Yeah. Is that working? Fantastic. Okay, we'll go with this one. So what we've got here, I now need 3 hands. So what we've got here, it's some really transformational solutions. Right. So enterprise IoT is fundamentally about changing the business of companies, because each one of these solutions that I've mentioned here really was about driven by enterprises trying to run their business more efficiently, and that's the key here. Enterprise IoT is changing the business of companies. It's about taking products and making smarter products, embedding and putting power in these devices, greater data capabilities, bidirectional communications. Isolated products become connected, and pervasive coverage, supported by pervasive coverage and greater bandwidth and technologies. And real-time communications. Operational technology becomes influenced by IT, and there's an IT-OT convergence where applications and data converge from these two sides of a historic divide within an organization, enabling advanced and integrated analytics and a shift in the way that product design works. Service innovation, we've covered some of this earlier. New business models and products designed with integrated services. And all of these things together really drive competitive advantage, and that's the key to IoT. It's about competitive advantage. It doesn't happen because it has to happen. It happens because it enables enterprises to secure a competitive advantage, and competitors thus have to match those solutions or become outcompeted. So drilling down a little bit onto the reasons for developing IoT solutions. The top reasons here, these are results from a survey which was done by Machina Research, my company, last month in the USA. And these are the first time these results have been shown anywhere. It is a survey of US industry. However, the US industry, firstly, is a bellwether of what happens worldwide. US industry tends to be a little more advanced in their thinking in terms of IoT. And not only that, but it's a huge client and customer constituency for the Indian IT industry. So it's very relevant what these guys think. And their reasons for interest in developing IoT solutions, they start off with enhancing operational integration and efficiencies, expanding revenue opportunities, reducing operational expenses, to better monitor performance of devices, develop targeted IoT point solutions to address specific problems, to better compete with rivals, to analyze products and service performance. So there's a lot of reasons there, a very diverse set of reasons. And really that underlines what I was saying a couple of slides ago, which is that this is a very diverse and fragmented concept. And really it picks up on something that Rishi was emphasizing at the beginning of this session, which is that it's a technological revolution. It's an industrial revolution. It's very wide-ranging and influential in terms of the impact that IoT will have throughout all of industry. So I'm coming back to the point about competition there, to better compete with rivals. That is the key. That's what drives IoT and the take-up of IoT. So IoT, how will it come about, more from a technological perspective? Well, traditional M2M markets are changing to support an emerging IoT world. So solutions, traditionally and historically, solutions have been designed to monitor low volumes of devices, typically in a stovepipe environment. So things have been connected for many years, for decades in fact, but nothing's really been done with the exhaust data that came out of these things. And they've been very tactical and point solutions. And that's what's changing now. They're designed, solutions need to be designed with shared functionalities to enable the sharing of data and creation of new applications and creative combination of different data sources. And of course, the volumes change a lot in an emerging IoT world. Traditionally, of course, application developers had to dig through every level of application, exposing the data into the middleware and into the application. And right now, in a future environment, much more of that information should already be exposed into more standards-based and documented environments, which enable much more flexibility in terms of application development. So the world's changing. And really what's changing, just to emphasize here, you've gone from connected devices and associated applications through to complex applications and data analysis. I'm not going to go through each one of the boxes or each one of the different the differences on that slide, but I'm going to cite a good example of an old world M2M solution could be something like smart metering. You just connect that meter, you pull the readings off that meter, and you drive some rating and some billing. Whereas an IoT equivalent solution might be something like a virtual power plant, where you pull in information from the grid, so you know the flows across the electricity grid, you know the renewals, the power being generated by renewables, wind power, electricity power, etc., solar power. You have weather forecast information, so you can forecast what kind of power is going to be generated by these things. And you might also reach through to high consumption devices installed in buildings, like HVAC systems. So you make sure that HVAC systems run in periods where there is spare power being generated by solar farms, etc. And controlling that kind of an environment is an IoT concept. Just pulling information off a smart meter is very much an M2M concept. So really that's what's changing. You're getting a much more open and interactive environment emerging. There are several stepping stones between today and what we might call a fully fledged IoT. Clearly, there's a huge difference between those connected smart meters and the virtual power plant that I described. So we're really moving from a situation of M2M solutions as standalone devices or propositions to a point where they're more integrated into a functional solution, and then to a point where those functional solutions are themselves integrated into wider industry, enterprise, or other data communities, and then on to a more seamless Internet of Things. And this is very much an evolutionary journey. We're not going to go straight from smart metering to a fully fledged and fully interactive Internet of Things. It's going to take work to get there, to actually build those connections between different subnets of things effectively, and then to develop the standards that underpin that. And that's why we've come up with this concept of subnets of things. And I would suggest that the Internet of Things is more of a network of subnets of things than an Internet of Things. It's about pools of connected devices which are highly integrated, but they might not be highly connected to other subnets of things. So take, for instance, the construction industry subnet of things in the United States. There's a very rich level of connectivity and information and data share between different companies which might have an interest in a specific building site, so that they know when the different companies are going to be there, what actions they're going to be doing, what machines are going to be on site, etc. And there's a lot of coordination needed across a lot of companies within the construction industry. But it's a very small subnet, effectively. Within a healthcare, if you look at a healthcare environment, obviously there are huge environments or huge benefits to be gained from sharing information across multiple healthcare sources. I don't need to go into the details there. And also, huge advantages to be gained from sharing information from different sources in smart cities, from connected traffic lights and volumes of traffic monitoring and information about roadworks and roadblocks, etc., and parking space availability. So there's a huge benefits in sharing within that subnet of things. But then you have to consider what's the advantage of connecting those two subnets of things, so the smart city and the healthcare subnet of things. There's probably not a lot, to be honest. There might be a bit of pollution monitoring, there might be a bit of timing of ambulance services, but really what you've got there is two separate or slightly separate environments. So we think that this lumpy future, effectively, of the Internet exists will persist even into an era where everything is standards-based and everything could theoretically connect to anything else. There will be security considerations which will effectively ensure that this subnets of things approach persists, and that happens in today's internet too. So that's not an uncommon thing. One thing it does do, or one thing that does do, is give rise to the opportunity for something that we call IoT service marketplaces, and these are things which could help connect between those different subnets of things. Basically abstracting information up into a shared environment, which is much easier for each of these subnets of things to see across into different subnets of things. Standards support the development of IoT service marketplaces, and ultimately ultimately, as standards become fully fledged and fully implemented, these things, these IoT service marketplaces will be much more about the exchange of data services rather than providing transparency between subnets of things effectively. So you might go to an IoT service marketplace and find things like providers of advanced analytics, or billing and subscription management, or wholesale information, data monetization and data brokerage, and interoperability between different systems. But essentially, it's going to be, these things are going to almost become a shop front for different services or advanced services in the IoT space. And that leads me to the next. I've described a very wide-ranging and very evolving and evolutionary approach to the IoT, or concept of the IoT. So that leads to a question of how do you actually bound what the IoT is? Well, firstly, it's any end-to-end connected device, clearly. Applications that use data exhaust from M2M devices, I'd call those IoT too. Applications that are developed in a way that's consistent with IoT standards, I'd call those IoT applications too. So this is about taking IoT concepts and ensuring that wider corporate IT development is done in a way which is consistent with IoT and IoT standards. And also the platforms that are used to support that, and project work related to IoT concepts. So if you look at this, and you look at the shift in the way, or the shift in the IT industry effectively to pivot and to focus towards IoT and emergent IoT standards and protocols and approaches, IoT really becomes very central to the whole IT space. And this is borne out. This is another slide from our survey, which was completed last month. Another slide from our survey, which completed last month. This is the anticipated IoT share of IT budgets by 2020. This is American companies again. So what you've got is probably the bulk of companies are expecting between 20 and 70%, say, of their IT budget is going to be spent on IoT by 2020. Overall, as an average figure, we calculated the average. It's 43%. So 43% of the average corporate IT budget gets spent on IoT by 2020. And if you think that the balancing 57% has to cover the maintenance of all legacy systems as well, that 43% is a huge figure. It's a huge shift in spending from IoT IT budgets now being spent on IT concepts. So clearly, it's a huge thing. Ratio is highest among technology companies and larger enterprises over 100 million in average revenue. So it's a hugely influential concept. So this brings me to the question: what's the opportunity for India? Well, smart infrastructure is a clear opportunity. This is something that's happening a lot in India right now. Smart cities are a key focus. You've got the Junram program, you've got Modi's Smart Cities initiative, huge investments being put in smart cities as well. Smart buildings gaining traction. A lot of intelligent and green buildings converging and viewing the building as a converged ecosystem in a way. Initiatives around electric vehicles. It would be great if that could be used as a way to establish a drop-in battery market, which is something that was tried in other environments but didn't work, but could potentially work in India in a way that it didn't before. And also, of course, there's the smart grid management and smart metering solutions. So smart infrastructure is a clear opportunity, and this is an area where where India faces challenges, where you are solving problems, you're developing solutions which can be taken to an international market. It's an opportunity to develop expertise and to take that overseas and to generate monies and revenues through providing services to international markets. I'm going to give you an example here, which is around smart cities IoT project prioritization. This is a very complex thing. People think about smart cities, and there's a vision of what a smart city might be, but actually figuring out how to start that implementation, what to prioritize first, is quite complicated. You've got to consider the benchmarks and the typical applications and the dependencies between applications that one might need to be done before another can be undertaken. You've got to look at the intrinsic variables of the city size, the level of development, the immediate needs, the infrastructure available, all has impacts on prioritizing these products and solutions. You've got to look at the local context, whether the cities have autonomy and access to budgets, etc., and the wider context in terms of how that city fits within some kind of national plan, and just developing this kind of expertise around products. So developing firstly the products in the smart cities in India, and developing this kind of expertise really help taking those concepts and taking those products and selling them into Western markets. And clearly it's a space where you guys are developing that expertise. So there's a whole set of opportunities around smart infrastructure. There's a range of other opportunities which are much more application focused. Again, I've mentioned irrigation up at the front of this presentation, but irrigation is a key priority in many parts of India. If you develop good irrigation solutions which are portable, then those can be easily sold to other reasonably arid parts of the world, or where irrigation is a priority and water is a pressured resource. Agricultural equipment as a service, clear opportunities there to increase the efficiency in sharing those expensive assets between multiple farms or multiple agricultural areas, and increasing efficiency, increasing productivity of the land, etc. Clear benefits here, but again, there are opportunities to export those solutions once they've been developed into international markets. Power distribution and smart metering, intelligent agreed buildings I've mentioned. Telemedicine is a key one in terms of taking the limited supply of doctors and pushing their expertise as far out as possible into rural areas. Personal location monitoring is a key one as societies change and evolve here. And also assisted living as the population ages and needs to be looked after. Or the elderly needs to be looked after in a far more efficient and cost-effective way, frankly, and also given population migrations within the country. So assisted living will become a key need, and these are all areas where India faces pressure and must solve. And you have to solve these in a low-cost and very efficient way. And it's kind of a Gandhian engineering is how I might characterize it. Engineering the solution at a very low cost point. And what that does is it puts you in a very good position to then export those solutions, again, into an international environment. And of course, plain old systems integration is a huge opportunity. And here I'm going to come back to our survey again. And just highlight here, this is a distribution of expected IoT focus of projects. So on the left-hand side, these are almost exclusively focused on integration with legacy systems, and then decrease. The far and right-hand side is don't know, but one in from the right-hand side is almost exclusively new IoT solutions with no legacy. So you can see there's a fair amount of legacy system integration expected in many IoT solutions. And again, that's a clear opportunity for systems integration and such services. Remember again that 43% of IT spend is expected to be IoT by 2020, and a lot of this clearly is going to be flowing in the direction of projects which involve a significant amount of legacy systems integration, and that's there's clear opportunity there in terms of work effort and man days. So moving on, opportunities for India in the IoT. Firstly, it's global. There are a few markets that can't be reached. The whole world is an opportunity across multiple nations. Assisted living solutions are fairly similar in whichever country they're deployed. There's no reason why they shouldn't be taken from one country and deployed in another. Although some obviously require resource and support on site. But what you want here is firstly the possibility to export services, the possibility to export products, and of course, remember back to the IoT service marketplaces, there are niche IoT services that can be offered via these kind of exchanges to companies worldwide. You could offer data analytics services or business process documentation and management solutions globally. Products and services. Products and services both. So the IoT will always represent a huge systems integration opportunity. We've seen that, but products easily exportable, high margin. Constraints add strength, I think, is a key thing. Much of IoT is business case based. And frankly, the lower manpower costs in India force IoT solutions to be super efficient. And that's a great position from which to start exporting to other markets. And competing with more Western providers. Some challenges for India in the IoT. Firstly, the impact of automation on business process outsourcing. So systems integrators will need to stay ahead of the artificial intelligence and machine learning curves as companies in other markets really explore what could be done with artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's going to be tempting to start to pull some of these things which have been outsourced to India and to other places back into their home markets. So that's a risk. I think you really have to stay at the leading edge of this and really offer as competitive and efficient services as possible, leveraging these new technologies. And also, IT services industry will face new challenges. So IoT is synonymous with disruption. That's kind of a common message which has been running throughout the presentation. It's disrupting all sorts of end user industries. It's also disrupting competition between providers, and it's something which enterprises have to adopt to remain competitive. So new players, new value chains, new products, and new services all coming in, and much of the IT industry has spotted this, and much of the international IT industry really is focusing on this space. And that means that there is significant competitive pressure from other providers in the IT space, seeking to leverage the disruption that is heralded by IoT. So there's some challenges there too, but overall it's a huge opportunity for India, and I would say that the opportunities outweigh the challenges. So thank you very much for inviting me here, and I shall leave it there.